Your applause was dead right. It's a soft reverence. Beautiful. Several years ago, I started an idea that I would write a series of little tenets, little mindfulness components. And in the end, I ended up writing 500 of them. And I found an agent, and I was going to publish these things. But then the pandemic occurred and things got sidetracked, which is fine. But I called them the Mindfield. The Mindfield. And it was to encourage young people, particularly young professionals, not children, young professionals, to find their own pocket of peace and, of course, their own voice in a noisy world. I always offered them as a portal, not a destination. So a way to get someplace. And I offered them a little sheepishly as a middle-aged white American male, hopefully not to mansplain, and I hope it wasn't some form of white savior complex. But the idea was that it took me a lifetime to find my own voice and a pocket of peace in a noisy world. And I wanted to shorten the journey for others. So they were meant as just little ideas, tenets, sutras. We call them mindful because it's part of what we practice here at Arlington Metaphysical Chapel. And that mindful was based actually from the Buddha. Those wrote about him in something called the Dhammapada. There was a whole chapter 2 in fact, called mindfulness. That was where that began. And the essence of that was to build for yourself an island. And the island in this case is not so you are isolated or feel disconnected, but it's a place where you find peace. It's a place, it's a pocket, a place to breathe. And that's what I liked about the mindfulness movement, and that I altered slightly for the title itself. It demands that we bring a thoughtfulness, a social consciousness to our communications. And it's a respectful and ethical way to understand one another. The idea of my sutras was that they reflect a universal truth, that every voice has value. And in this same vein, we understand source a little bit better. In this, as we gather, our sacred group here of like-minded souls, I see all of you with that same essence of mindfulness, potential, power, and if at times it starts to feel uncomfortable, that we have lots of feelings as we explore and live in our world, I would just hazard that we don't try to talk ourselves out of that too quickly. Where we are, where you are as an individual, what we're thinking about, how we act, how we feel is a perfect mirror of our entire humanity. We are feeling what humanity is feeling. So if we talk ourselves out of that too quickly, we are disconnecting ourselves from humanity. One of the tenets I wrote at the time was, never talk anyone out of their feelings, which is kind of a nice interpersonal communication tip. But it also means don't talk yourself out of your own feelings so much. Just let them be in the ocean of emotion. I have found that over time, awareness, as we have now dubbed the A of AMC, and therefore mindfulness, the M of AMC, is a crucial aspect in raising one's consciousness, the C of AMC. And you'll see that here in our bulletin. Awareness, mindfulness, and consciousness. Right over there. It is, to me, almost a nice roadmap for life. A portal itself, not the destination. Part of that journey. It demands that a life of spiritual freedom requires that we live in the present, we widen our behavioral repertoire, We try not to attach our worth to outcomes, which is very hard, and that's how we need to release our expectations. And therefore be less judgmental of others and, of course, ourselves. The Mindfield also reminds us that when we stress out, and we will freak out. I'm old enough to know you're going to freak out the rest of your life. But I also know that when I freak out now, it's temporary. You get out of it just enough times to go, okay, this one's not permanent, even though the next one will feel permanent. And I have to constantly remind myself that is just part of that ocean. And then I think probably most importantly, the Mindfield is where we find our unique blend of spirituality. For it is when we are calm and neutral that we find our deeper, truer nature, and we let it shine through. So I wanted to spend our time this morning in this third space. As I mentioned, we will be doing 3 meditations. Each one, there'll be a short collective reading. We'll do the first one together, and then I'll do the other 2, so you can stay in that semi-meditative state. And then we'll be singing a cappella, Be Still. If you want to look at that up, it's in the red hymnal, number 69. It's also on the board there. So if you want to glance at that. And again, if not, no worries whatsoever. This isn't choir practice. Now, as we set these up, we will read a little bit, we'll sing a little bit, and then we'll start a guided meditation. Part of the magic is what Julia will be playing on the chimes. She has several of them. The third, don't be surprised if you're in a deeper state, well, she will also accompany herself with the piano, which is also beyond my understanding. And then we will, at the very end of the 3, we'll sit for a moment, and then I'll bring you back full consciousness into the chapel. So, as the great Sufi poet Rumi said, I'll meet you in the field. Phase 1. Follow, please, in the bulletin. Mindfulness is creating a pocket where you can experience your thoughts more fully. Discovering the airspace between balloons, or watching your thoughts form outside the windshield. Be still and know that I am God. Be still and know that I am God. Be still, be still, be still, and know that I am God. Please enter into a meditative position. And we will begin. The first sensation is just to be aware of our breath, not controlling, not counting. Just notice that there is air, there is movement. Notice the space in this chapel, the room between each other, the space between the pews, the height of the ceiling. Notice now the space in your mind. All thoughts passing like clouds. motion, like waves in the ocean. No attachment. Just room. Notice how your skin itself is softening. Any thought is like the airspace between balloons, or watching your thoughts outside the windshield. No attachment. Just being. Being in communion. Notice there's room, there's space. Nothing is trapped inside our cranium. And now, ever so gently, imagine there is snow falling ever so lightly over the things of your life. As with all snow, notice there's a pause, a silence, awe. A sudden dusting of snow allows for space between the words, or thought between your sentences. An entire meditation between your questions. And with all snow, at the tip of the nose, cool air in, cool air out. Cool air in, cool air out. Be still and know that I am God. Be still and know that I am God. Be still, be still. Notice all the parts of your beautiful life. Things that represent work, loved ones, health, your finances, life on planet Earth, pets, houseplants, automobiles, books, devices, cool air in, cool air out. Notice that all those things now have a dusting of snow. They're just being calm. settled. They're still there. We are not erasing them. We're just chilling them out. Let that snow build up a touch more. You can still see the outlines of important things in your life. Notice the space. You could almost walk through that beautiful dusting of snow between all the elements of your life. Let it build up a touch more. Still there, just under deep, quiet, deep respect, with plenty of space. Cool air in, cool air out. Cool air in, cool air out. And on the next few breaths, I want you physically to exhale and ever so gently start blowing some of that snow off the items of your life. Not all at once. On the next breath out, you will move that snowstorm along. Next breath out. We are moving the snow off the items and segments of our life. Last breath. Breathe out the snow that gathers among your items. Vocally exhaling. Notice in your mind's eye, all the items of your life are still there. Nothing has been rearranged. Nothing has been dampened or damaged. It's just fresh. Like you can see the field between components of your life. Staying in meditation. We will move into the third component. The gift of mindfulness is that once you recognize the difference between thoughts and the observance of thoughts, you know when you are in one or the other. You can recognize, I am grappling and holding on to thought. Or I am in observance of thought. And with this awareness, we have more space in which to think. Be still. and know that I am God. Be still and know that I am God. Be still. We will now enter the field of God. The field of divine energy. Release all expectation. Let God be God. There is but one tone, one energy, one mind, one source. Ever so gently. Wiggle your fingers, wiggle your toes. It's going to feel surprisingly bright, so do not open your eyes right away, quickly. Let the cracks in your eyelids appear, like awaking from a nap. Wiggle your fingers, wiggle your toes. Move your eyes around inside your closed eyelids. And then when you're ready, gently open your eyes. I have been part of this chapel for 35 years, I think. I come to this place when you want to raise that. I come here in moments of crisis. During a divorce, came here and cried. During 9/11, came here and cried. And I've always found that it's the presence of this place more than the philosophy or the theology, which I clearly appreciate. But what I return for is that feeling.